You're listening to the 50th broadcast of TBR Radios, the TBR History Hour, with your host, TBR contributing editor, Dr. Edward DeVries. On today's show, Dr. Ed calls Bob Grenier, director of the Lake County Historical Museum, in Lake County, Florida. They talk about the removal of the statue of General Edmond Kirby Smith from Statuary Hall, and the roadblocks preventing Bob from placing it in his museum.
So tell me what the museum has planned for 2021.
Well, I'm not sure what's going to be planned. It's funny because they, the sharing the museum with the sheriff's office, you can make appointments to come in, but right now, it's like the sheriffs aren't opening up the door basically outside of appointments, so that's how the museum's kind of running too. 2021, it's hoping for, a return to, what I consider normalcy, and just having great new exhibits and great new events, and hopefully we'll see what ends up happening. I don't think the statue will be able to be at this location because, the county commissioners, two more of them had cowered out, but of course they were booted out. They were voted out after they made their decisions. Their flip-flopping cost them their elections. The one commissioner who continued to stay strong to the very end won his primary and won re-election. And I try to tell them, other commissioners, just for a handful of mean anarchists, don't change your vote. And sure enough, they did, and lost out on being reelected. So as far as the statue goes, we probably will end up having to find a new location for it.
So would it still be a museum exhibit? You would just host it off-site, or are you basically looking to give it to somebody else completely?
Yeah, that's what we're hoping for. Everything's been kind of quiet because of what's happening in the country with the COVID and everything like that. So they've they call me, Tallahassee called me and says, well, what are you guys going to do? And I says, well, obviously the county commissioners don't want it in their building where the museum is, so we'll have to find a new location. So they haven't been in contact with me. They're just kind of letting everything quiet and go past and trying to get past the situation, with the whole COVID thing. And then I'm sure I'll be hearing from them. But in the meantime, I'm looking to try to find like an annex, a place that the Historical Society can annex as a kind of a little off-site museum area somewhere. So that's kind of where we're at on that. Hopefully Tallahassee stays patient and works with us.
I know somebody who would give you the space, but I don't know if you would want to have your off-site in that off the beaten path, that far out of town place. But do you know where
you talk about it in Lake County?
Yes, sir. Do you know where the Lake Yelp Conference Center is? I
think I do. I think I'm familiar with it.
It has an address in Leesburg. I'm trying to remember. My office was there for 3 years, and I was there almost every day, and can't even tell you the name of the street that it's on. But when you're on 42, just past that Buck and Doe's store, you're headed out towards Lake Altoona and all that. Mm-hmm. There's a sign, and you make a left-hand turn, and you go on whatever that name of that road is, and I should know it, and I don't. Sorry, drove it every day. Don't know the name of the road, and then that road ends in it dead ends at the Lake County Fairgrounds.
Oh, in Eustis.
Yes, sir. So if you would go, so you're looking at and there's whatever that Stavros Pizza's there, and the fairgrounds are there at that corner there in Eustis. If you probably know where the fairgrounds are.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, go back down that road about 3 miles. Right. And there's a big conference center there. It used to be owned by the Florida Baptist Convention. Mm-hmm. And the new director there now is losing his shirt because of COVID.
Right.
Because, their business was to host camps that weren't happening, to host retreats that weren't happening. They have probably 400 some hotel type rooms. They've got conference rooms that can seat anywhere from 30 to 1,500. They've got a dining room that'll feed 1,200 people, and then they've got 2 other auxiliary dining rooms that'll feed 400 people.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, they've got space. It's a beautiful place. They've got buildings. They need money. It may be further away than you want to be, though. I don't know.
Well, you say they need money. The statue itself, you can't charge to see. You can't charge an admission price to see the statue.
Right.
It has to. The people, the citizens, have to be able to view it for free. And of course indoors. But it's something, I'm still advising the board of directors, and like I say, things have been quiet. Not much has been going on with it. So I'm really kind of hoping that when this is all over, I'll hear from Tallahassee, see what if they're going to continue to say, well, you won it, Bob, for the Historic Society. Where do you guys want this? Because they know now that these commissioners, except for one, had changed their mind. And like I say, it's really sad because 2 of the commissioners who flip-flopped, there were 3 that were up for a re-election. 2 had flip-flopped. They're already in office for a couple more years. 2, they lost by flip-flopping and being cowardly. They lost their, a conservative vote, and for just a handful of anarchists and statue assassins, as I call them, and they were voted out. While the one commissioner stood strong and to the very end, even as late as during the primaries, even, and he stood strong with the statue, and he won re-election, and it's not hard to figure out where the majority of people, the Americans, are as far as the statues and preserving our history and protecting our founding fathers. And Christopher Columbus, I'm an Italian, my heritage, and boy, Christopher Columbus has taken a beating, even more so than any of the others. And so we'll have to see what happens. We're kind of in a quiet mode with the statue. I think everybody thinks, well, the county commissioner says it can't be in the museum, but they're forgetting that at this time, the Historic Society is still the recipient of the statue. So as long as I can find a spot for it, and the board of directors is willing to do it, because you get a lot of apathy on a board. They sit there every other month and they can make decisions, but to actually get out there and do some work and sometimes you just get a lot of apathy when it comes to that. There's some great board members on there now, and let's just hope that I can get them to say, listen, find a place. It still belongs to the Historical Society. So in the meantime, we're kind of in the dark until all this COVID thing goes by and Tallahassee gets back to thinking, okay, we got this statue situation to think about with the architect of the Capitol and getting the new statue made by the new sculptor who's making the new statue, which is probably not even started yet because the sculptor is making it out of marble in Italy. So just to be able to get to Italy is a very tough thing. And so anyway, yeah, it's just kind of in a quiet mode right now as to what's happening with the general. In the meantime, he sits where he rightly belongs, and that's in the nation's capital in National Statuary Hall. And and of course, it'll be a hot topic once things go by, and they're going to make a determination in what we're going to be doing with the statue once it gets back on Tallahassee's radar. Is, hey man, we got to do something about the statue now. So I think I know they're trying to get past all the COVID and what to do about school children and as far as going to school again. And and so there's a lot that they got their minds on right now. So in the meantime, the statue assassins, as I read in the Dixie Heritage, they continue to do their thing, and the cowardly politicians, cowardly. There's no other words for them but cowards, and ignorant when it comes to his history. Absolutely ignorant. Now this thing now that I'm hearing from the Southern Heritage Group that some politician to the House now down in Miami wants to get rid of the 3 state holidays, Robert E. Lee, Jefferson Davis, and Confederate Memorial Day from the Florida books. And that's the latest thing, and it's very sad getting that email. And here's a guy who came from New York and was in trouble several times as an elected official, and comes down, moves down to Florida, and wants to tell us here how what we can have is our holidays, and he figures that's how he gets his name in the news. Is let's kill American heritage, So Confederates, founding fathers.
Well, what you're pointing out is something that a lot of our listeners, though we tell it to them over and over again, don't realize. And that is that the other side never gives up. How many times, how many county commissioner meetings did you go to and you won? And yet you went back the next week and the same group of people were there protesting the same thing over and over again, forcing the same vote over and over again. And they did it how many weeks until now you're wondering where to put a statue that was something you thought over a year ago was a done deal and a won war?
Absolutely. I mean, first of all, these mean people, they're mean. That's what they are. They're mean. No, nasty. That's another word. They're mean and nasty. And, to have commissioners, I thought, everything was fine. They'll stand up to these people that come every week and just, smooth their nastiness and their meanness. But they just, their way was, let's just give in to them. So I'm thinking to myself, so that is how decisions are made by my elected officials, by the small handful of people. There are over 300,000 people in Lake County, and because of some small handful, or half a dozen people to a dozen people, come each week to say nasty things about a statue, you give in to them, and then you when you finally change your mind, say, okay, we won't have the statue in the thing, to feel good about yourself. I mean, to make them stop, that, to me, that's cowardly. And that is, what kind of character, what kind of strength of character, you can't have any strength of character, you got to have to say no. And especially one of the commissioners who changed their mind is a general, a retired major general. How did you let these people, and then after he changed his mind, he then sent out, campaign cards that they mailed to your house, where he says in there that I will never give in to these anarchists. They know I will never give in to them. Well, you know what he was doing? He was backtracking because he knew what he did. He knew he flip-flopped because of these anarchists, and now he's thinking, how am I going to save my conservative vote and all the people out there? By just saying in a campaign card, I will never give in to, and hoping people didn't hear about his flip-flopping of the statue. But when the statue was, for 2 years is front page news here in this area, they're going to know that you flip-flopped, and you're going to lose the votes. And he did. He gambled, and he lost. And all he had to do was stay strong and protect. I had gotten a call from one of the commissioners who said to me, Bob, look what you're doing to us. This is right before the meeting that they changed their mind. Look what you're doing to poor Josh Blake. I don't like Josh Blake. And because of the statue, he's not going to get elected. Well, you know what? Josh Blake is the one who did get elected. And even his campaign card says, I stood up for history when no one else did, meaning the other commissioners. And he got reelected because he's a patriot and he's a hero. And he stuck by his guns, not a flip-flopper.
Yeah.
Got a lot of morals.
And so a lot of these men, these commissioners, they think, okay, well, these people just keep coming and keep coming and keep coming. And so we'll finally give them what they want, and so they'll go away. But as you pointed out, they don't go away. Then they still come back the next week to ask for something else. Now they're like, oh, you gave us the statue. You got rid of the statue. Now let's get rid of the holidays. It's like, it will always be something.
Always be something. And, all you got to do, because, I was on Taveri City Council for 10 years, and when these people come and do their nastiness, and I know I'm right, I know what I believe in, common sense and morals and values, I just nod. And I don't change my mind. They can attack me, and they have. When I got the statue, I was still on city council. They come and they tear into me. I know God is not abandoning me. I know He's given me strength. I'm not gonna give in to these people. There's no way I'm gonna give in to these people. And yet, these cowards. I don't know any other words. I'm sorry. I don't want to have to call the four of them cowards. I went up. You know what's funny? The one who lost, one of them who lost, Wendy Breen, she lost to Kirby Smith. Kirby Smith, I spent, I was on 10 years, and he was on 8 of them with me on the Taveri City Council. Well, he was elected. Now, he knows his similarity to the name General Edmond Kirby Smith, and he really, really craned in the election the one who turned against the statue. He's not naive enough to know that his name, so similar to the general, helped him get votes. I mean, that's not what he campaigned on. But I was at his office the other day because I'm going to kind of help decorate with history his new office there as an elected official. And we talked about that. And as I was walking into his office, there was one of the flip-flop commissioners walked past me. I just turned my head, didn't say anything. He tried to say hello to me. I can't do it because it just makes my skin crawl that you can call yourself, you can say a Republican, and you can call yourself somebody who loves history, and then turns your back because some people come into your meeting and just say you got to get rid of the statue, and then lie and lie and lie. Well, I mean, I just my skin kind of crawled just even being near a person who can have the dignity, the integrity, the honor, the wisdom to stick by their guns and say, nope, this is history. This is going to economically, look at what it's going to do for our county. We're going to have a one-of-a-kind work of art that was in our nation's capital for 100 years, listed as a national treasure right here in our own backyard. This guy, this Robert Grenier guy, this Bob Grenier historian guy, he worked his tail off to get us this. Now let's do this and get this thing, this special it's a national treasure. That's what it is. And let's get this in here into this museum and watch the people come and into this museum and into our city and into our county. The logic, the logic just boggles my mind when people are that ignorant that they can't see the logic. And what I should say, our logic, but they're illogic. They're illogical attempt to know history and know what the majority of the people of Americans want, and that's very sad.
Open your web browser and type in www.barnesreview.org and discover the Barnes Review magazine. In the Barnes Review, you will read vignettes of man, from the prehistoric to the very recent, from forgotten races and civilizations to first-person accounts of World War II and the late Cold War. There is no more interesting magazine published today, nor a more significant and important subject than real history. So visit www.barnesreview.org and subscribe to the Barnes Review. You can subscribe to receive the Barnes Review magazine in its print form, or in convenient electronic delivery. Our host has been a subscriber to both formats for years. So visit www.barnesreview.org and subscribe to the Barnes Review.
Said when I read your Dixie Heritage thing, that just every day it doesn't stop with these people. It doesn't stop, and it doesn't help when you have these rhino politicians aiding and abetting these people. I don't know what they're scared of. I have no clue what they're scared of.
And that is something that I just thought of. That was the thought. Was right now with the Defense Act that's going through Congress, and the president is saying that he's going to veto it because of the removal of the base names across the country, honoring, Fort Benning, Fort Robert E. Lee, and so forth.
Fort Hood.
Yeah, Fort Hood, Texas. Yeah. And, it's the Democrats came up with the idea, but it's the Republicans that have made sure that it stayed in the bill.
Right.
Because they very much had the ability to remove it. And even the Democrats were like willing to remove it a couple of weeks ago just to make sure that the president would sign it, thinking, well, hey, we could have Joe do what we want him to do here in a few weeks, just, get this through. The Democrats were even willing to let it go.
Yeah.
And the Republicans, and it's the military brass are the ones that are driving this thing. And again, you're talking about, here's a guy, who was a major general, who was supposedly a conservative Republican, and yet he would do this. We're seeing it at the national level.
Yep. Absolutely. And you know something, which is very sad, because I've talked to so many veterans who think these brass who are promoting to change the names are, well, I shouldn't say what some of them have called these guys, but they're not happy. Let me put it nicely. They are not happy hearing, these retired veterans are not happy hearing that these guys are supporting changing the names of the Confederate. These were Americans, and guys like Lee and Banning and Hood, and these guys were heroes. These guys were brave, courageous men, and they were Americans. They're the ones who stood up for the Constitution. It always goes back to the slavery thing and sickening. They got to look at men as individuals. You don't judge by a whole. You judge by each and every one of these men. And everyone that has a base name was a courageous man, heroic man, and they were great Americans as well. Even though during a 4-year period, they fought for the Confederacy. Why? Because you were loyal to your state. Your state was your home. You felt you honored the Constitution and what the founding fathers put together for us, and why pilgrims came over for the religious freedom. It doesn't make sense. They think it makes them look good. They feel good about themselves. Let's get rid of this statue. They feel good about themselves that they're supporting this. They pump their chest like they're very supportive of this. They make themselves look good. To me, it makes them look bad, but they think they look good, and it's sad that they would think that they look good in the face of the voters, in the face of the people who honor the founding fathers for what they gave to us. But when you sit there and you see, and this is proved because I was on the conference call with the Southern Heritage people, and the Senator Baxley was there, and a couple others representatives were on this call-in thing that we all did, and all they kept saying is, "Bob, you got some vindication with this last election." I said, "Yeah, I told these two people who don't change your mind on this statute, you're going to lose your election," and sure enough, they did. By changing your mind, support the statute, you're going to get reelected. Well, one of the three did, and got reelected. So the cowardice and the ignorance, it just boggles the mind that they let mean and nasty people, which just, make the decisions. Now I know that I had 4 commissioners that if you threaten them or say nasty things about them, they'll do what you want. And I'm thinking to myself, great, that's wonderful. I got commissioners that all you have to do is threaten them, and they'll make their decisions that way. Man, I've had people who called me in the 10 years I was on Statuary City Council. There's no way I would stand for that at all. You can threaten me all day long if you want. This is going to happen or it's not going to happen, because it's for the good of all the people, and it's morally correct. And I'm not going to change my mind, and I'm not going to make a decision because you called me and threatened me.
So then do you take a few of those Bambino family members who retired down there in Florida and take them to the next commissioners meeting and maybe let them use their powers of persuasion to talk some sense into some folks?
Well, yeah, we've had, first of all, we didn't think we need to go, and once in a while we did. These next people came every week. Well, we would come in a group when we felt we needed to go. The general's great granddaughter would come, and the thing is, you can tell the difference when they have somebody come up to speak. They're mean, and they were just kind and courteous and respectful and well spoken. Then you get these people coming up, these statue assassins, and they're mean and nasty, and they call out names and they try to interrupt you, and they're just despicable. I mean, I spent the last 2 years listening to these people. They're horrible, the things that they do and the things that they try. Do I believe like this election with the president? Of course I do. Because I just lived 2 years of what these people tried to do here. And the mean and nasty things they do, like websites that are made to look like the Historical Society's website, museum website, and all the mean and nasty things they try to do. I mean, the list is a mile long. I can't believe that people actually spend their days thinking of these mean and nasty things to do. I can't believe it. That these Democrats and these liberal lunatics, the socialism that's moving in, it's scary. It's absolutely scary.
Read all about it. If you're like me, and I'll bet you are, you like to be on the cutting edge of honest news and accurate information. You like to hear about the latest financial trends and to know what's happening around the world and right here in the United States. The things that can directly impact you, your life, and the life of your family. And if you're like me, you do not rely on the mainstream media to obtain this information because, frankly, you know that you just can't trust them. Fortunately, there is an alternative news outlet with a long-established track record for honesty and integrity, and that is the American Free Press. AFP is the preeminent alternative, independent news source for honest, hard-working, truth-loving Americans. AFP is the antithesis of the controlled, lamestream media. AFP is employee-owned and has been so since its founding. Because of that, AFP never has and never will allow advertisers or special interests or big money to dictate what appears in the pages of the American Free Press newspaper. 26 times a year, the American Free Press newspaper can be delivered to your door, packed with the kind of uncensored news that I know you're going to appreciate. AFP covers the stories and tells the truth that the lamestream media is frankly scared to touch. And AFP offers real, on-the-scene reporting and commentary, the likes of which you will never see in the Washington Post, the New York Times, ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, or just about any other lamestream news source that you can think of. That's right, there's only one national populist news weekly staffed by an unsurpassed team of veteran investigative journalists who will dare to rip the veil off of many of the major news stories that are being censored and suppressed by the big money controlled media monopoly. And that's the American Free Press. AFP publishes exciting, in-depth, uncensored news and information that's grassroots and patriotic, information that Americans need to know in order to combat the growing police state. AFP stands firmly against the New World Order and against those who are working to establish a global plantation under the rule of a powerful few. In short, AFP is your voice. If you have any doubt why they want to silence AFP, you must be relying on the lamestream media for your news, and folks, that's a big mistake. If you're ever dissatisfied with your subscription to the American Free Press, their guarantee is that you just drop them an email and they will gladly refund the unused portion of your subscription. So what are you waiting for? Visit www.americanfreepress.net. Once again, www.americanfreepress.net. And find out about the American Free Press. Do it today.
Extra, extra, read all about. One thing that I have not heard, be it in news media coverage or be it in, I know the newspaper in Orlando is normally my source of finding information, on what's going on with the statue. In my conversations with you, the subject hasn't come up yet. And so I'm just going to ask you.
They're really a far left extremist newspaper. You do know that, right? Okay.
Yes, sir, I do, and so that's
Don't trust what
and
they say.
and that might be part of the reason. That might be part of the reason they're not answering the question I'm about to ask, because hopefully they don't like the answer. But your museum is in the same building as the sheriff's office, and that was part of the argument. Was, well, we can't have this statue to the Confederacy in the sheriff's office building. What does Sheriff Grinnell think about the whole thing? I'm yet to hear his
I
opinion.
really don't know. To me, he's, I know he's a wonderful guy. He is. I know he's a wonderful guy. But he probably doesn't want it there either, to be honest with you. And, the statue is not a statue to the Confederacy. It's not a statue. Yeah.
Well, I understand that. It's a statue to a man, but that's the association.
That is the association, which is the ignorant part of the whole thing. I can't speak for the sheriff. I know he loved everything we did, how the museum was shaping up. I really don't know. He's a great guy, a real great guy. The only thing is, he probably would just, like everyone else, well, why do we have to have it? And then it doesn't understand the historical significance in what this thing is. It goes, again, to me, it goes beyond, it's just not a statue. This one is just not a statue. It's one of 100 that are probably the most special statues in the country, for what they are and where they're located and what the purpose is of these statues. And I hope President Trump can get that National Hero Garden of statues done. I'm hoping he can get that thing done and continues to move on that. So I don't know how the sheriff himself actually feels. And, they have to associate, Lake County is a racist county. They're not a racist county. They're blaming it. They think that Sheriff McCall, they're associating everything with Sheriff McCall. And, Sheriff McCall, to the people who really know Lake County history and knew the man, they would can tell you that he wasn't everything that is described about him today. There are things that he did that seem like, boy, this guy was, wow, maybe he was really racist. But I've got a cassette tape, probably about 15 interviews that I did for one of my books of elderly Black people from the Tavares area. Many of them are deceased now, but I got on tape where these people said to me, because I asked them about Willis McCall, and they said, well, Bob, I'll tell you something. We never locked our doors because we know Willis McCall will never let anything happen to us. Does Willis McCall think that he was above? Yeah, probably did. But the fact is, don't associate this statue, what it is. The artist that created the statue was one of the late 19th century, early 20th century here in America. It was also Floridian. With the sheriff, they're both two separate histories. So don't combine it all as.
So I'm gonna say something, and maybe I'm gonna appear insensitive, or maybe I'm gonna come off as the cranky old white guy. But okay, Edmond Kirby Smith. A lot of people knew who he was. The Confederate States of America. A lot of people knew what that was. The war between the states. Everybody knew what that was. And they bring up some isolated case of racism from 75 years ago. And nobody even knew about it until they told us about it.
I was actually one of the guys who kind of assisted. There was the story was very vague, and in the late 1990s, a friend of mine, an author, wrote the book The Groveland Four in the late 90s, and he brought the story back. Because it was just hidden. And he was in the Historical Society, and he was looking through files and happened to see these old newspaper stories of this Groveland Four case. Well, these people, most of them don't even remember the Groveland Four case. But now that's one of the things they got to use, and you're absolutely right to bring this up, some history that is not even related and then saying that we're such a racist county, and now we're bringing in this Confederate statue, you know. Oh, put it in the museum, they say. Put it in the museum. Well, isn't that exactly what I was doing?
Welcome to the Christendom curriculum. You know, every parent who decides to homeschool wants to secure a great education for their child, while also saving time and money. But these days, many parents have another concern. They also want a homeschool curriculum without all the multiculturalist, politically correct diversity doctrine that's really little more than a thin disguise for an anti-Christian, anti-American, and anti-Western civilization bias. Now there is such a curriculum. The Christendom curriculum gives your children a complete education in Bible, history, literature, and more, focusing on the classic academic skills of reading, writing, and arithmetic. But we also tell the story of Christendom, the story of the Christian nations, especially as Christ's kingdom has been historically manifest in the nations of Europe and America, and we do so without apology. The Christendom curriculum is the only Christian nationalist homeschool program you'll find. We support the right of the European and American peoples to their historic Christian cultures against the globalist leftists who want to destroy those cultures. Not only that, but we provide assigned reading courses for various hot-button subjects in our current culture wars, including feminism, social justice, and cultural Marxism, among others. These reading courses will teach your kids how to survive a social justice warrior attack, how to debate with leftists on social media, how to reform their local churches and communities, and more. We're living in a time of tremendous historical and social change. Christians have the opportunity now to begin building the culture and civilization of the next 1,000 years and beyond. It's an exciting time to be alive. So if you want to help raise the next generation of culture warriors, if you want your children to grow up with a love for Christ's kingdom and for their own nation, while at the same time learning how to defend America and rebuild the West, the easy-to-use Christendom curriculum is for you. Click the Learn More button to get in on the action. And thanks for listening.
Have you made any attempt to sit down with the leadership behind this angry mob and basically talk to them and say, okay, so you don't like the fact that you're not being represented here, so what exhibit do you want? And then why couldn't the two exhibits be side by side, or at least both care. Be prominently placed within the building somewhere, even if not side by side? But why couldn't some other aspect of their history be represented as well?
That's the first thing. No, they don't care. I was actually having a sculptor. She, for a price that I brought to the commissioners, she was going to create a 4-foot statue out of bronze of Mary McLeod Bethune, the one statue that's going to be replacing his up in Washington. And I was going to make that part of the exhibit, have a 4-foot bronze right there in the same gallery as the general. I have more exhibits of blacks in this museum, from the famous lawyer to Tuskegee Airman to a teacher who was the longest teacher, was honored by the governor. It went on and on and on. Sports figures of Lake County and black. I had more, but they don't care. First of all, they didn't even know the museum existed until the statue. I was awarded the statue. They don't care. None of it. They said in a TV interview that they didn't care that if we were going to get a Mary Bethune statue to go along with the general. They said they didn't care. The black woman who's going to be now up in Washington D.C. replacing the general. They didn't care. Oh, we don't care about that. We just don't want that statue here, that general statue in here. They don't care about the history. They don't care about other exhibits for African Americans. They don't care. They absolutely. And Trump, because when we were meeting early on with them, Every time, all of a sudden, Trump's name. It's like, what does Trump have to do with us bringing in this work of art into the museum? But Trump, hate, prejudice, racism. We're trying to, we're trying to go away from racism. No, you're not. You're creating racism. I'm the one that is trying to build a bridge through history and knowledge and education. And you're tearing us apart because you have your agenda and your hate-filled agenda, and you're the one who's tearing down the bridges, not me. We tried talking to them early on, and they were just mean and nasty. They couldn't talk. They couldn't talk like decent human beings for nothing. They're mean people. Mean. I dealt with them face to face for 2 years, every day for 2 years. They're mean people. And I'm finally saying this out. You're the first one I'm actually saying this to a media person, because I just let it all go. Just let it go. But, this is how I feel now about these people. I was Mr. Nice Guy, and yeah, we're going to do this. We'll do this. We'll make this real nice. Da-da-da-da-da. And, so I'm being mean. Well, no more Mr. Nice Guy. I'm going to let these people, I'm going to call these people out. The cowards, the ignorant, the nasty,
right,
the mean. I just never saw. They're disgraceful. They have no honor, no integrity. And it's very sad. So, yeah. CNN had tried calling near the end, and I would not return their call. Three different hosts of 3 different shows on CNN. They had one of those people on there, but I'm not going to get on there because they'll just use their show to tear me apart.
Right.
The Communist News Network. Thank you for letting me rant. I was able to get things out of my system that have been bottled up because I never said anything. I just nod my head and I keep moving on, and I'm still standing, and I just go on and but yeah, I mean, some of these people need to be called out.
Hello, I'm Tom Strain, Lieutenant Commander-in-Chief of the Sons of Confederate Veterans. The Confederate flag, Confederate symbols, and the reputation of our Confederate ancestors has come under attack. The Sons of Confederate Veterans is actively fending off our detractors, but there is only so much that we can do. We need your help. Contact your local, state, and national elected politicians and tell them that you will not tolerate these attacks on our heritage. You can also visit scv.org, download an application to join us in our fight to preserve our Southern heritage. Visit scv.org today. If you don't have a Confederate ancestor and you are tired of American history disappearing, you can assist us by becoming a friend of the SCV. Please visit scvheritagedefense.org and make a donation to the Heritage Defense Fund. We hope that you will join us in the fight to defend the Confederate soldiers' good name.
I made a statement in my newsletter the other day. I think it was this last Friday's newsletter, that right now, the President of the United States can't even get an honest hearing before a court.
Yeah, that's right.
And I'm not saying that everything that he's claiming in his lawsuits is... I'm not saying that he's lying, but I'm also not saying that everything is a groundbreaking, earth-shattering revelation either. But there's enough there that a court should hear it.
Absolutely. How do you get 11 million more votes legally than you did last election when you won and got over 300? How do you do that? And all of a sudden, in the middle of the night, I was watching this. Those states were red well after 11 o'clock at night. And I mean, for Wisconsin in the middle of the night. So, right. So.
Yeah, so if the president can't get an honest hearing, what makes people like us think we're going to ever get an honest hearing?
Correct. Absolutely. It's a great observation. I mean, here's a guy who, again, got so many more votes. They can't even look in this like something is wrong. Something might be wrong with his machines. Oh, how did these boxes of ballots all of a sudden turn on? Boy, this is strange that 100,000 ballots came in between 3 and 4 in the morning. How do you not at least not have a hearing, not even investigate and have a hearing? How am I going to do that? You know, no matter what I went up there and said to these commissioners, no matter what I say, I'm the liar, I'm the idiot, I'm the racist, and these people are, you know, we gotta, you know, they all have white guilt. They've got to, they've got to, you know, do what they want. Got to do what they want. And you know, they didn't even speak. These people, they thought they were speaking. And you know what's funny? Most of them are white people, because there are a lot of great African American friends that I have who are supporting the statue. You know, so I don't. These people, they just have no integrity at all, none. And I can't understand how I would go up there and say very logically, very nice, you know, good mannered, level headed, and go up there and say the history, and say what it would mean to us economically, and say how I'm sensitive to what these people want by putting it into a gallery. And yet I'm the one who's all the nastiness. I'm all this racist, mean, you know, insensitive person. That's the judge, the ruling on me. That's the hearing I got.
Breaker one, might be crazy, but I ain't dumb. Crazy Cooter coming at you. Hey, y'all, got your ears on? Well, I got some news for you. We're here at our brand new Cooters in the Country store in Sperryville, Virginia. Good old Sperryville, where Cooters started many years ago. Folks are coming from all over Hazard County, and we're going to have a grand old time with good music, good food, and best of all, good friends. Hope y'all can be there. Whoop, whoop, here come Enos. Huck got Cletus with him. I'm down and I'm gone.
Where I would go was the Market of Marion, and I realized that that's not in Lake County, but I'm sure Lake County probably has a comparable flea market, and I just don't know where it is or know anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I would, and the owners of the Market of Marion gave it to me, and they didn't charge me for it. And, you know, I gave them a receipt, and, you know, they used that donation as a tax write-off.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe they would donate. Maybe there's a flea market there in Lake County that would donate space to you. And so, you know, you would have a dedicated space. It would be indoors. Not only would the building be locked up during the week, but your unit, your space would be locked up as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be secure. And what we would do is we had a flea market booth. And we used it to draw attention to the church and to promote the church.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, some people, you know, we didn't make a lot of money. You know, but, you know, we probably took in, you know, a couple $100 in donations. And we didn't push for donations. We just literally had a box there. And there could be anywhere from a couple of dollars to a couple of $100 in that box at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
But mainly we would talk to people, and in fact, one of the big draws was I had a coffin there, and the coffin had a skeleton in it. And people would walk by. I said, "Hey, look in the box." It was actually like a pine box type coffin. I said, "Look in the box," and they'd look in the box, and they'd see the skeleton. And I'd ask them, I'd say, "So, you know, one of these days you're going to be like my friend in the box, and when that day comes, are you, you know, 50%, 75%? 95%, 100% for sure that you'll be in heaven?" And that would be the conversation opener.
Right.
But you know, it would draw attention to the church, and
Mm-hmm.
there were a couple of times that I used that booth space to do other things, you know, to draw attention to other charitable works as well that we had going on. But you know, put the statue and a couple of other smaller exhibits in that type of a space. And, you know, I know it's not as dignified as a museum, but 10,000 people a weekend are going to go by there and see it. and you could draw attention to the fact that it's there because you can't put it in a real museum. You can not only do people see the exhibits, it draws attention to the fact that your museum exists. Some people might put money in the box to help support the museum, and it draws attention to your whole political plight because people are going to be like, why don't, whatever. And like, these are the exhibits that we can't even put in our museum because of political correctness.
Yeah, very sad.
Make people a little mad. Maybe you'll do even better than we did. Of course, we weren't trying to raise money at it. That was just kind of a whatever, an afterthought. But you might actually even be able to actively raise money. People, just tell them, you're giving towards our legal fund because we got to hire lawyers to fight this stuff constantly because we can't even put this stuff in our museum. And people will be outraged. Well, why can't this stuff go in a museum? What's wrong with this stuff?
Yeah, and it's sad that that they're out there, put things in museums, and then once you say, well, we're putting it in a museum, but then that goes to prove that their intentions are not honorable, that they really don't mean put them in a museum. They mean let's eradicate it, let's get rid of it, let's destroy it, and it's a terrible thing. Terrible thing.
With COVID, do you think that the museum's going to recover from COVID, or is this going to be
Okay. Oh gosh, yeah, the museums. Yeah, it's really not affecting the museum at all. Financially or anything like that. So it's because of it's run by a 501c3. There's no charge to get into the museum. So yeah, it's mainly volunteer. There's an employee there, that answers the phones and does things. Kind of a manager of the office. So yeah, I don't see it having any major effect at all. Good advertising and everything will bring the people back. And again, Florida, we're open here. We're basically open. I mean, I'm also an engineer over at Disney, and we're open.
Right.
So, that's what's great about Florida and having a governor like ours. We're not about restaurants are packed. I mean, packed. We're talking every table. And so yeah, it's great to be adults and living like human beings.
Right.
Here in Florida. So.
I was talking to somebody here. This was a few months ago now. He lives in the Turks and Caicos.
Mm-hmm.
And I told him, I said, and it was noisy. And so I told him, I said, brother, I said, let me call you back. I said, I'm in a restaurant right now, and it's just really noisy here, and I got some folks here I'm eating with anyways. I said, let me call you back in about an hour and a half. And he's like, you're in a restaurant? He's like, how are you in a restaurant? He's like, restaurants are open there?
That's right.
He's like, I haven't seen the inside of a restaurant in months.
Well, even like back home in Chicago, my folks, my brothers, my sisters, their restaurants and everything is closed. Like, how are people living? I said, first of all, you got a Democratic governor. The cities are got Democrats, especially, Chicago. I says, I don't know how, that's why Illinois is $90 billion in debt and wants the president, to bail them out. And then how are individuals paying their mortgages, their electric bills, their water bills? How is their governor justifying not being open? And my brother says it's miserable. It's actually miserable. The people are miserable because they're closed. I said, I've been going to restaurants. I think I've been to 5 restaurants in the past 2 weeks, and everybody's wearing. They come in, they wear masks, they have paper menus, they have. If you allow these restaurants to follow, they will do everything they can. They all have their masks on. They have individually wrapped utensils. They have paper menus that they throw out. Let adults be adults. Let the businesses open up, and they will do it properly. But my brother, they sit up there. They haven't been into a restaurant. They don't know how long. Nothing's open. I'm saying my sister's a waitress. How the heck is she paying her bills?
Right.
I mean, how are you paying your electric bill? Where's the money coming from? These people who live in their ivory towers, socialism giving you guys you've given orders, and then they're out at Mexican beach resorts and in $350 a plate restaurants with other people, and that they're not following their the simple rules that they put out for everybody in their stay. And they're out having a great time, because they got all their power and they got all their money, and they so it's sad. So that's why I'm kind of glad here in Florida, where I told my brother, so you guys need to come on down there. You guys need to catch the breath. Get out of that stench of Illinois. Come over here and live. So, yeah, kind of sad. Kind of sad. So,
if your situation and the situation with the statue and with the museum and everything were settled, you wouldn't be an interesting guest right now. So, it's I'm glad that I got to chat with you, and I'm glad to have you on the radio. But I really wish that it wasn't necessary.
Yeah, because the big story would be a grand opening,
Yeah.
and that would be the big story, and how the final, how we finally got over the hump, and we had a grand opening, and life is good, and so in the meantime, it's still a battle. I appreciate you thinking about me and give me an opportunity to speak again. That's great. We did this a few months ago, didn't we? Last time we did this?
I want to say it was in April, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
because it was. I want to say it was in April because you were in the museum that day,
Right.
and you were working on some new exhibits because it was like
Right.
we were thinking that the COVID shutdown would be like 2 weeks or something like that, and so you were thinking, okay, good, so this gives me 2 weeks to do whatever it was you were wanting to do, and of course it didn't turn out to be 2 weeks, but
Yeah.
yes, sir. But if anything changes in any of this, good or bad, I guess, let me know.
I sure will. Absolutely. I'll give you an email.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Yes, sir.
All righty.
All
Well,
right,
take care and drive carefully up there in that weather.
Yep.
All righty.
All right. Well, thank you, Bob.
You're very welcome.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Attend Bible College for free. Visit www.bibleschool.edu to find out how. Have you ever wanted to attend Bible college, but you couldn't leave your home? Or maybe you thought that the cost might be too high. Not anymore. The School of Biblical and Theological Studies is offering you the opportunity to enroll in an online class absolutely free. Enrolling in the free classes in no way obligates you to continue, and it will not obligate you in any way to ever have to pay a dime. Visit www.bibleschool.edu and start studying God's Word for free. That's www.bibleschool.edu.
And that is all the time that we have for this week's TBR Radio Presents, the TBR History Hour. I hope that something in our conversation with Bob Grenier, the executive director of the Lake County Historical Museum in Lake County, Florida, maybe made you a little mad, maybe got your dander up just a little bit, maybe it'll make you go out and do something, throw a punch or take a shot in the culture war for the good. I love doing these shows. TBR loves making this content available to you, but we need your help. We are looking for somebody to sponsor shows in 2021. And so if you would like to have your good, your service, your product, your organization highlighted on these radio shows, I would love to do that for you. Send me an email, director@dixieheritage.net, director@dixieheritage.net, and let's talk about how you can be an advertiser here on the TBR History Hour or maybe on the Dixie Heritage Show. Of course, we're coming up to the holidays, so you'll want to go to www.barnesreview.org, at www.barnesreview.org, and you'll want to give the gift of knowledge, the gift of truth. You'll want to give the gift of a subscription to the Barnes Review, and you can do that at www.barnesreview.org. You can also shop in the TBR bookstore. You'll want to do that very quickly because we want to be able to get your order out in time for Christmas. But we are out of time. So from all of us here at TBR Radio, we will be back again, same time, same place next week. But until then, God bless.